Tell me about your son, Jordan.
He was argumentative and opinionated, very bright, very well read. So when he wanted to argue, you better be prepared. He often had strong opinions about things. And so he had lots of ammunition to talk about it with.
He's been described as very determined.
He was determined, yes.
By some of the patricians who served with him, and they note that he actually broke 2 of his vertebrae at one point.
That's right.
Which for most people would disqualify them from the infantry, but he pushed on.
He did. He was in a body cast for I don't know how long, a few months at least. And then, and on medication, a lot of medication for pain. And he eventually did get back. He jumped. And apparently his doctor met him at the jump site, congratulated him, and he went on.
A paratrooper. What made him want to join the Canadian Forces?
I think he believed he could make a difference. Like, I think a lot of young people feel that way. So we just supported him.
And what did you think when he told you, Mom, I want to join the Army?
He didn't tell us he wanted to, he told us he had done it. He wasn't going to give us any chance to discourage him. We would have preferred that he went a more academic route, but he did study while he was in the forces. He studied when he was in theater, he studied when he was on home soil exercises, so he got his degree posthumously from the University of Manitoba.
When education was so important to your son and he was so determined to get that degree, did he talk about that as being part of what he saw when he wanted to serve in Afghanistan?
Yes, he did. He wanted to be an intelligence officer. So he was, after his undergrad in political science and history, and his next steps were to go to University of Calgary in a master's program for strategic studies.
So this is a young man who's very determined. He goes to Afghanistan. What did he tell you before he left?
Not to worry. He said that. He said, Mom, don't worry, less than 1% of soldiers die there from Canada. I guess he didn't expect to be that 1%.
He left a note, I understand, before he deployed, and he was talking about the risks. And he knew what those risks were, but he felt they were worth it.
Yeah, he did. He thought they were worth it.
And he talked about the mission and how important that was. What did he say about if he died?
He didn't really talk to us about if he died. He really didn't expect to die, I don't think. He might have given his wife instructions, but he did warn us that if anything happened, that so many people would come to our door and then so many other people would come if he died. He didn't really give us that much of a warning because he didn't expect that to happen.
Tell me about the day that you found out Jordan had died.
True to fashion, our son gave the wrong address for our house. So the entourage from the DND came and went to the wrong house. And of course we didn't know anything about it then. In the meantime, the entourage showed up in Edmonton at his home to speak to his wife, and she phoned us and gave the phone to the assisting officer, and that's how we found out on the phone. And then shortly after that, the DND showed up at our door.
When was the last time you talked to him?
Well, the weekend. He died on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and we spoke with him the weekend before that. That's when he told us he was going to go and get his master's. We were going, yes, finally, we're done here.
Well, and you must have thought at that point, he's so close to the end of his mission, he's almost out of danger.
Yeah, that's what we thought.
You had a chance to travel to Afghanistan.
I did.
And you saw where your son lived and worked. What did you think?
He was right, it was a sandbox. There was so much sand and dust. It was terrible. Even the bus doors were squeaky from the dust and the sand, and the inside the buses were just filthy. Everything we stepped on or walked near was just with a layer of dust.
Did it give you a different perspective on his time there?
It did, because he described where they had played hockey, or some friends of his had played hockey. And so we saw that site, and we saw their barracks and where they had lived. and we saw that we ate in their mess. And we went to the airstrip, and we had the dubious distinction of being there when someone else was killed. So we watched a ramp ceremony as well.
What was that like to watch as a mother who lost her son?
It was quite moving. I remember being very cold, even though it was a warm country.
Your son is buried here in Ottawa.
He is.
He's in the National Military Cemetery.
That's right.
What is it like for you to know that he's buried in that place of great honor?
We're very proud of him.
And what did you think when you visited him?
It's the same thing I think all the time. Why him? Not that I would wish it on anyone else, but I wish it wasn't us.
How do you, I think people wonder, how do you deal with the incredible grief that you must feel that your son died a hero, but you're still his mother? You still miss him.
I rely on my friends and family to accept me the way I am, tears and all, and they do.
I noticed you're wearing a dress today that's the same color as the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry 3rd Battalion.
That's right.
Which is the regiment that your son belonged to.
That's true.
How have you felt the military around you? Have they been supportive? Have they felt like a family since this happened?
I know that some people have horror stories, but we have had nothing bad or difficult with the Army at all. They've been terrific.
He grew up in the North.
That's
You're
right.
in the North. Do you think that gave him a sense of adventure that served him well in the military?
Oh, absolutely. He was a daredevil from the start. We had a Skidoo. He had to drive it the fastest and the farthest. I'll tell you a story. When he went to high school in Notre Dame, Wilcox, Saskatchewan, and some of his student friends bet him $50 that he couldn't swim across the North Saskatchewan River, which is pretty cold, and he wasn't a very good swimmer. And he did swim across it, and so he won his bet, so he was pretty proud of that. But his student instructors told him that as a consequence, he would have to donate the money to his favorite charity, so he did that. And he really enjoyed farming. So again, as a consequence from some mischief he got into at school, they sent him to a farm for a weekend, and he thought he had died and gone to heaven because he worked in a dairy farm in Ontario in the summers when we would go south there. So when he phoned us and told us this was his consequence, we kind of rolled our eyes, and he said, "Mom, it's great here. The trucks are bigger, the farm equipment is bigger, and I get to drive it." And I'm going like, what kind of a consequence is this? So he challenged everyone.
What does it mean to you to be the Silver Cross Mother this year?
I'm deeply honored, and I hope that this group doesn't grow any bigger. And I recognize that I don't represent just mothers, but whole families. I mean, whole families lose children in war, not just mothers. It may be more painful for some mothers, but I'm not alone.
When you're at the ceremony and you're laying that wreath, what do you think will be going through your mind?
Well, I know that I'll be thinking of the other families, that they're not alone. And I hope they realize that. And I'll be thinking that I hope the vets that are living will get a better shake than what they've been getting.
What do you want Canadians to know or to think about when they remember your son and they remember all of the other men and women who have fallen for Canada?
That whether or not we agree with war or violence, that our sons and daughters chose that route, and as parents we should support that, their need to do that, whether we agree with it or not. I don't believe in war myself. I don't believe anything has ever been solved by killing each other. So,
is there anything else that you wanted to add or to say as the Silver Cross Mother or as Jordan's mom?
No, just thank you to Canada for the support and understanding.